I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Most people, when they talk about the Bronx, they either completely hype it up or they completely count it out, and both are wrong. Hi, I'm Dave from the Bronx, and I've been living in the Bronx since 1989. And today I'm going to give you the pros and cons of living in the Bronx in 2026. Good, the bad, the real stuff that no one talks about in a brochure. And by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to decide whether the Bronx is right for you. No hype, no fear-mongering, just real talk. Now, important to remember, the Bronx is the only borough on New York's mainland. 1.4 million people, 12 miles from Midtown Manhattan. In 2026, the Bronx is changing. Rising interest, rising prices, rising notoriety. And if you've been sleeping on the Bronx, you're not alone. But the people who figure it out early, they're sitting on equity right now. Now, remember, the Bronx is the most affordable borough in New York City. Compared to Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, you're saving a ton of money by living in the Bronx. And we discussed in our previous video the average rent, so you have a good idea. And if you haven't seen that yet, click the link in the description below. You have home ownership opportunities starting anywhere between $150,000 and $300,000 in the co-op market. Entry points that don't exist anywhere in New York City. Don't forget the down payment assistance programs, which you can see in the link tree in my bio also. And your dollar stretches further in the Bronx than any other borough in New York City. And if you're renting in that range that we discussed in the earlier video, you might be ready to buy already. All right, don't forget, the Bronx is the birthplace of hip hop, and the cultural diversity runs deep within this borough. And with an incredibly diverse community, the food scene is elite and underrated. Whether you're looking for Dominican, Puerto Rican, West African, Caribbean food, this is the place to be. And one of the biggest reasons to be in the Bronx is the sense of community that you just don't find in the other boroughs anymore. The pride in the Bronx that you don't manufacture. You either feel it or you don't. Once you do, it stays with you. Pelham Bay Park is the largest park in New York City. It's 3 times larger than Central Park. And you have Van Cortlandt Park, which gives you huge opportunities for open field play, hiking, and trails. City Island gives you seafood boats and small town vibes. And it's only 45 minutes from Midtown Manhattan. The New York Botanical Gardens and the Bronx Zoo are world-class institutions located right here in the Bronx. People think New York City is a concrete jungle, but the Bronx has more green space than anywhere here. And that's a fact that surprises people every time. Transportation and location. The Bronx has multiple subway lines, the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 trains, and you also have the B and the 1 train. You have Metro North rails at Fordham, Tremont, and Wakefield. You also have access to I-95, Deegan, and the Bruckner Expressway. LaGuardia and JFK Airport are within reasonable distances. And if you work in Manhattan, you can be there in 20 to 35 minutes, depending on where you're at. And that's not a secret, but it should be talked about more. You also have a growth and investment opportunity right here. Mont Haven and the South Bronx are seeing major real estate development over the last few years. New restaurants, art galleries, coffee shops. The area is changing every day. Property values have appreciated significantly over the last few years, and the trajectory continues. Bronx in 2026 is where Brooklyn was 15, 20 years ago. And I'm not saying that to hype it. I'm saying that because I've seen it from the inside. And if you're thinking about buying here, the window is still open, but it's not as wide as it used to be. Drop a comment or DM me and we can see what works out for you. All right, the cons. Public schools remain a challenge in the Bronx. The Bronx has some of the lowest performing schools by New York City standards in 2026. And that's a real consideration for parents relocating from suburbs or other states. And families with school-age children often navigate charter schools, magnet programs, or private options. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this isn't a factor because it is. But I also know families who made it work by doing their research on school options. The Bronx still carries the reputation built from the 70s and the 90s. Some neighborhoods are still navigating high poverty rates and underfunded services. Now, on the flip side, the stigma is still why prices are still low. The Bronx has been underestimated for 50 years, and it's frustrating when you live in the borough to hear that. Why there's still a chance to get in. Ahead of the narrative, or you can let the narrative make the decision for you. And as investment increases, so does the displacement of longtime residents. Rents are rising rapidly in developing neighborhoods. Long-term Bronx residents are being priced out of the neighborhoods they built. That's a community conversion that matters, just not a real estate trend. And development isn't good or bad, but it depends on who it serves. And as someone from here who didn't leave here, I care about what happens next. I care about the Bronx growing in a way that doesn't push out the longtime residents that have been here for a long, long time. Subway service gaps are a big problem, especially on the 4 and the 5 train. Some neighborhoods have limited food access and food deserts. Street maintenance, sanitation lag behind some of the wealthier neighborhoods in New York City. And if you're moving here, you should know that going in. Here's where I land after being in the Bronx for so many years. The Bronx is New York City's best kept secret. The pros are real: affordability, culture, green space, access, and opportunity. The cons are real too: school challenges, infrastructure gaps, and gentrification. Now, here's what I know for sure. The people who wrote the Bronx off are the same people who wrote off Brooklyn 15, 20 years ago. And the people that betted on this borough are winning right now. The Bronx isn't for everybody, but for the right person, it's one of the best places to plant roots in this city. So if you're seriously thinking about moving to the Bronx or buying here, I'd love to help you figure out if this makes sense for your situation. That's what I do. Drop a comment below, DM me, or hit the link in my bio. No pressure, no pitch. Just a real conversation. I'm Dave from the Bronx, and if this video gave you something useful, hit like and subscribe. Share it with someone who might use it, and think about moving to the Bronx.